Hello, welcome everybody to Treasury Guild session on 17th June. Today we are going to look at few documents, and our main discussions will be around reporting for Q2 and proposing for Q3 in Ambassador program. If we have any more time left, then also two suggested open topics are Treasury Guild report and proposal. Okay, then let's jump into the first document. So Treasury Guild operation steps outline. So in the Treasury operations, we have been now few months running like a facilitation rotation where everybody can contribute or facilitate the session, basically managing the Excel, auditing each work group tasks, and then bundling it together into a JSON file. And to this experience, recently we had a session where I was a bit sickly and left before the transaction was fully completed. But apparently, as soon as I left, nobody knew what to do next. Even though we had some kind of guide, but it wasn't. The guide was more like ad hoc, rather than like a full detailed step-by-step guide. So the last session, we used a different approach, where instead of me or any other facilitator guiding, also other facilitators who have been running operations wasn't there on it. And so that was also another reason why there was a confusion and the lack of completeness. But anyway, so we changed the way so that the facilitators now reads the document and does the thing. So instead of me saying why we do this or what the next step, the goal is to use this document as the go-to stuff. And make sure that you don't need a person in know-how to do the operations. It took, the entire session lasted a bit over 3 hours, so it was a bit more learning curve compared to usually it takes about 2 hours, and with the guidance, with the document guidance, it took longer, but it worked. So so this process is now in place, and yeah, we will continue to refine that proposal if there is any new insights that come up. It's color coded, and yeah, let's see if this is going to work. And the approach here is slightly different. The format here is like all of these buttons, they are like describing the modular button. So in, for example, the step check wallet addresses, it describes the sequence of the buttons usually pressed. However, there might be some still critical thinking required that if you are in different step, you can still press these buttons and go back and forth. Here are more related to registering, but for example, above, like clearing return messages or filtering or refreshing return messages. These things can be done in any of the steps. They are like guiding information. But yeah, this is the new file that we are now using and testing out. The second item is the policy template. We just today morning updated it slightly, and there will be some more additions. But it's also moving slightly along. The Treasury policy template is scoped just for treasuries. And the goal here is to explain how do you submit policies. And also this is a living document. So if there are other work group or any work group, any guild who is proposing or using any kind of rules or guidelines provided for Ambassador program, we're also waiting for your insights. And we will have some retrospective session where we also try to pull the insights, but if somebody is asynchronously capable of providing it, we will hope so that people will add more context how people are using these rules and guidelines that have come up in Ambassador. So here it's more general, not just Treasury policies. And yeah, over a few days, there will be also guiding questions to answer these insights. Yeah, the main role was already kind of shared in the proposal itself, the Treasury Code proposal. But quickly, we first submit policies. Right now, we have worked the way how to do the submissions. Then the next policy work group will be start reviewing them and selecting the policies. We will also start drafting a policy feedback Google form so that we can asynchronously provide feedback for these policies. And once we have selected and have all the feedback for these policies, we will bring them to these Treasury Code discussions. And in here, we will decide if we want to take them into an effect. And if we do, we also prepare another ratification consent Google form, which will be then having the same way we have been doing other proposals, a simple consent. If there are no blockers, we will implement based on the start time provided by the policy. Minimum requirements to provide the policies. We have a rule. It has to address a problem. Has to have an implementation start time, any rule activation dependencies, and this is now directly related to the rule itself, not in general workgroup dependencies or anything else. And finally, a hypothesis, what this policy should be making up, so that in 1 month or like in 2 months or whenever we check again, we have way to evaluate if the rule did what it was expected to do. And the guide itself provides 2 example policies, how could they affect each other, and some other documentation. Then the third proposal, now going into more of today's topics, is proposal reporting and reviewing guidelines. So there was an experiment that the archival work group, I think, or onboarding work group was doing, I'm not sure which one, that went line by line of each budget and then provided an insight of how was it implemented or any source information. I used kind of the same logic for reporting too. And then, yeah, these are basically the lines. So you need to have a proposal link in your report so we know what are you reporting on. Then this can be found on the budget sheet. Then also optional stuff, which not every workgroup has, but some have a Google Drive or landing page. We have 2 different folders. We have the Ambassador account, and then we have a Singularity account. So if you find your documents or folders somewhere here, provide this space so that then we have all files in one place if it's a public information. Or alternatively, some workgroups, for example, Treasury Codes are extensively using Marabor. And this link itself will provide link to this general Marabor map where you have all the other workgroup Marabor. So if you have it, you can just copy paste from here. And if you're missing, then add comment, let me know, and we can go back and update this map too. How many people contributed to proposal delivery? So in order to get that information, we now have this Treasury dashboard. Here you can filter out already that link is filtering based on that month or this quarter. And all you need to do is select your own workgroup and to see, for example, gamer school, how many contributors have tasks. You can make pictures of these dashboards, and I think these are sufficient enough for the reporting, or you can go into more detail or insight why any of these contribution made. Then share links to proposal deliverables if applicable. So proposals themselves have a section of deliverables, and so that if Workgroup has a proposal, they do a proposal report, and then based on what proposal has these deliverables, each deliverable is kind of mentioned. And also they have later they have shared calls and sentences. These are only for, again, for the proposal, it's easier because they mention goals. For the budget requests, the goals might not be that clear. And so this question might not be applicable, but I'm sure that you can come up with something that you achieved based on budget requests. And yeah, if you have a proposal, you don't have to go line by budget. If no proposal deliverables provided, then reporting on your proposal budget should be shared line by line. So there is this alternative. So if you are providing only the budget lines, and there is also the public list of distribution export if you want to filter out by your date and find what kind of tasks were done under your workgroup. And also some people use Teamwork, so you might find your relevant work from there too. What is this proposal aiming to do? For example, the ambassador program, and share a sentence or two how it went. So each workgroup kind of has a purpose, and either in budget form or in proposal form, so you can have a sentence on that, and highlight at least one most exam placed. So find a way to highlight something that is, and the reports are, especially reports are big. And something that I just realized I missed is onboarding results. So how many new people you have joined, how the process has been like improved or changed, or anything related to onboarding. So that would be guidelines for reporting. They're based on this document. Any feedback, any changes needed here? Something too much, something too little? How do we want to go about this reporting guideline?
Well, outside that, it seems very solid to me. I'm not sure what to do.
I'm just a bit unclear. Is this something that we are implementing for Q3 and that we're expecting people to adhere to? Because I'm just not sure if people will have time to become aware of it when they're submitting their quarterly reporting.
To me, I was expecting this to be used for this quarter. We have this is not something new, actually. We have discussed it several times, but we never really put it into document. We extensively discussed it in like the last session, where we were like, okay, how do people report for Q2? And these are all the stuff we discussed, and I put them into document.
No, I know we've discussed it, but then there's not that many guilds and work groups represented here. So I'm just thinking, what am I looking to ask? Yeah, if somebody doesn't adhere to this, do they not get funded, or what's the sanctions?
Well, I guess it's up to the core contributor to decide if the reporting they did is sufficient enough. This is a guideline, so if they have no clue how to start, or like want to have a structure, have a blank slate, then this is something they can pick up.
Okay, cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's good. I'm just thinking about how we make sure that everyone's aware of it and what the sanctions are. But yeah, that sounds fine.
If there is somebody, I personally am not that stingy that if you are reporting differently. For example, I was looking at the archival workgroup report, and this is nothing like this. But when I read it, I I could really like see the deliverables, I could see the resources. So there was enough information for me to say, yes, that proposal was completed. But then again, considering you are like more advanced, you know how to do reporting, but compared to who don't, maybe this is a good like starting position.
Absolutely. I think what I'm saying though is that it's about the content is what people should adhere to rather than the structure. Because say like Archives quarterly report, it does have this content, it just structures it differently. So maybe that's the point, is the content.
Yeah, and even though, yeah, good, yeah, that's actually nice to say, like the structure, this is providing a structure and guiding questions. However, reporting can be in different ways. And if you actually compare other reports, then there's many things that overlap. It's just different sequence or worded differently. And it has, yeah, links to provide. Because another thing, what was missing was people keep asking, like, where do I find stuff? So now there are links to get this general view. And it could also be used for reviewing. Like if you are reviewing the proposal and you're like, I know that this work group has a public Google Drive. They haven't added it. I'm going to block because, hey, add it. And this is like a small fixes. Or maybe they don't have to block it. They can just say, yes, I agree with the proposal, but hey, add this in. So it also helps to provide feedback to the proposals. And if we have no other comments or additions or questions, then I guess this is kind of fine. And we next jump into Ambassador Program Q3 proposal submission requirements and content process. I'm now looking back. Did we even have it? I don't think we have a document, right? How do we do it how do we submit proposals? Or actually we do have something. We have, and I will move it down here. We have new process improvement for new work groups. So we do have a suggested process for starting a work group. Are we going to use basically the same document and the matrix table for guiding information again? I can't really find any processes. How do we validate the impact of safe proposal? Here is our early discussions on the reporting. But I think we've now nailed it at least 5 million requirements. Yeah, we have for Q2 budget requests, case-by-case approvals. We don't record emails. And this, I guess we have the same thing that everybody who don't get a consent that how long it also adds. So the deadline is to submit this by basically in 2 days, the proposal, right? And then we are we turn into 1 week of consent waiting, or is it 2 weeks? And after that, do we have a governance work group to ratify and start again? Or?
I'm kind of inclined, like, don't get me wrong, I would like to maintain the deadline of 19th. At the same time, if we do have 2 weeks of space for consent checks after that, yeah, how strong are we going to punish proposals coming in late? Because looking at the current list, there's 4 submissions. That's not a lot. I'm not sure. I do imagine this will change over the coming days. I mean, it kind of has to. But yeah, if for some reason half of the work groups don't get this deadline, then what? Like, we're just not gonna fund half of the program? I mean, that, yeah. And then have 2 weeks of consenting on a small amount of proposals. That feels a bit off. Not trying, yeah, I'm not sure what's best here. Like, I there's not much point putting a deadline if you're not gonna hold yourself to it. At the same time, yeah, I wouldn't want to destroy half the program funding.
What if somebody hasn't submitted it by the 19th, we just submit on their behalf a repeat of their Q2 budget, and then people can consent on that, and if that's not what they wanted, then it's tough.
Yeah, I can see that making some sense at least, and at least they're not completely without budget. At the same time, if there's like one-off instances of budget requests rather than like recurring stuff of just keeping the group running, yeah, do you then assign budget for those things which hopefully have been done already? Like that's also tricky. It would be better than nothing, don't get me wrong.
Maybe we only have 1 week of consenting, then if there is anything that if somebody is missing or somebody has blockers, we still provide them another week to provide the proposal or updates or anything that is coming up, which will lead us into Q3, but then on 3rd July, which is the first week of next quarter, there are at least new proposals in again, the second version, anybody who is missing, because now it's getting critical, and they are already missing out on potential max rewards, because if somebody already got funded before that, and assuming the price is going to be what it is, there might be these tools who are coming in the second iteration might not have enough budget between themselves. So they have this disincentive for not doing stuff properly. And then 1 week consent after that, it's 2 weeks into Q2, but it's still pretty good result.
Just a quick question. The submission deadline of the 19th is for the budget. Are we also saying that's a submission deadline for the quarterly report that supports it, or
Yes.
could that be a bit later? Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Bloody
that would be.
Oh dear.
That was my first issue too, when the last, I don't know, town hall or somewhere that was mentioned, oh, we're gonna do submission deadline. And then I mentioned, hey, but we require a Q2 report. So yeah, it's gonna get hard, because how many people, nobody has reported on Q2 right now. But again, I think we addressed also that it's fine if we don't have quarter ended and we do reporting like the past few weeks. They're not gonna change immensely how the quarter going to end for this proposal.
Yeah, just from what I've seen and in groups that I'm involved with, people might need a couple more days to get their quarterly reports together. So it sort of feels like maybe if they get the budgets in by the 19th, and then yeah, if they get their quarterly reports in within the next week, then maybe we just need one consent round after that. It's a bit messy because we haven't told people that, but yeah, I sort of feel like maybe some people don't even know they've got to, as in got to submit a quarterly report in order to get funded.
Sure,
No.
I think this one should be already quite clear that this is gonna happen. That was in before this quarter's, no, not
Oh,
quarter
I know it's been said. I just don't know if people have really clocked on. That's all.
Well, also noting that we don't have to push everything by 1 full week by definition, right? Like let's see, the 19th is Wednesday. Is there anything particular happening on Thursday? Why this is there? Like, I don't see anything on the calendar for Thursday which is related to it. So make me wonder if we could allow some leniency and have it until end of week, including the report.
Also consenting on the same week as we submit.
No, I'm saying for like the submission deadline on 19th of June. Like, would it be the end of the world if we extend that? Not so much the submission of the request, but the report for previous quarter. We extend that to, let's say, end of week, or then practically speaking, end of weekend.
Yeah. I think, honestly, the original date was something to do with linking it in with Governance Guild somehow. But I think it's got translated somehow to a Wednesday rather than a Tuesday. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense. You're right.
Yeah, I wouldn't put a deadline for report after a submission. I mean, submission requires a report.
Yeah, that's true. I do
But
it.
I'm fine if we just move the submission deadline until Sunday.
Yeah.
But then again, it's kind of nice to push this through. I don't know. To me, it was
I mean,
like, well, my God.
we've already put out publicity that the deadline is the 19th, so maybe we don't want to confuse people by changing that. But do we just need to put out something that reminds people, look, in order to get any funding, you do have to submit a quarterly report. And that, it's not about telling them a deadline for that. It's like, look, you've got to get it in, otherwise, do you know what I mean? Otherwise what you've already submitted won't be valid.
Well, just checking the calendar. The quarter starts on a Monday, so if we have the 1 week for consenting as the very last week of the quarter, technically those proposals without any issues are good to go at the start of the quarter. It's not the end of the, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Right, so we're saying that the week 24th of June onwards is the consenting process. So, so that actually, okay. So that would mean that we need to get ready with the consent forms. We are doing it by Google Forms again, are we, or what? I assume so. So we have to get the forms ready this week, and people are submitting right up until what you think, the end of Sunday, the 23rd?
So not
Is that
1
what we're
week.
saying?
Because I think the last feedback was 1 week was so little, and now if we reduce it even more, then if they wanted, as I understood, they wanted the minimum 2 weeks actually, but that's right now it's not feasible because then we are because I am so certain we need another proposal round because this time we needed 3 of them, and we still didn't get the proposal through. So
see, with the needing longer, I don't think it was that. I interpreted it as not as people saying, "Oh, we need 2 weeks." It was more like, "Oh, we didn't hear that it was time to fill in those forms, and so we ended up just finding out too late and just having a day." So I think what it may be about is making sure on the 24th that information goes out and it's kind of really repeated so that people know.
No, but I guess 20th, I get the consent forms ready, and then for next, okay, so Thursday, Friday, and Monday, we tell them to do the consent, and on Tuesday, we will check that if there are any concerns, issues, problems. Then on 26th, now this is too little time to propose a new one. So I guess 13th June, the last day of quarter, would be to submit another proposal. And I guess we are already late then, so I don't know. So we want to, how many days we want to have consent then?
Don't know. I mean, I know people were saying, oh, it's a matter of time, having enough time to read all the proposals, but do we need to kind of say, look, it needs to be a bit faster, and people need to, I don't know, set time aside for it or what? And I'm getting a little bit confused by what's on the board now. So submission deadline is still the 19th, but then the deadline for reports and everything is surely the 23rd, like midnight on Sunday, wouldn't it be? Because if you make it the 24th, it'll end up being midnight on Monday, and that's kind of not what we want.
What's the difference? At least Monday people get activated again.
No, but that's what I'm saying. If we're trying to give people the weekend to catch up, then we should give a deadline of midnight on Sunday, which is the 23rd, not the 24th.
Okay. To me, I was like more than a weekend.
What?
But I felt like more than a weekend, but okay. To me, it's fine
Okay.
to end it to the same week as we are submitting.
Okay, and then we've got like another week after that to update proposals.
Yeah, and then
And
before
so we
that,
start doing the consent process in the first week of July. Is that? Oh no, sorry, I'm getting mixed up, aren't I?
okay, but after so far after this second submission, how many days we want them to consent?
I mean, presumably it's going to be fewer. It's not going to be all the work groups that are going to need a second consent process. So maybe it can be shorter than a week. I don't know.
Yeah, because if we are, I don't know, because one way you do want to provide people the time from 5 days to make an update proposal, but if we have it 5 days, then the problem is we cannot use the next governance work group to check again if now it's all good, can we proceed? And also it will miss the Treasury Guild session option to kind of review the results. So if we are pushing the proposal deadline to, let's say you come out of the work group, you realize, oh my God, your proposal didn't work, you got some insight how to improve it, maybe somebody is even going to help you. Could it be done in 2 days, like 27th? And if that in that case, then we could use the 13th, the last quarter of the month, to finish with the consent. And on the next Monday, we can already look at the Treasury Guild, see if how many have passed before, how was the results for the second version, and if there is still any problems, then we have the cover.
In itself, it's short deadlines, but at the same time, like the moment, let's say on the 23rd, people already have information whether there's consent or not. So they don't have to wait for 2 days until getting started on sorting that out.
Yeah, that's true.
It does feel a bit tight, and yeah, I don't know. As long as at the very end of it, we would be technically able to show some leniency and not like cutting people off very hard, I think it should be fine.
On this consent deadline and gov work group review, again, why do we want this 2 days deadline here? Why kind of, because so that the consent is earlier and the proposers can already work on that without having to wait for the work group. Is that the reason?
Well, just governance work group being on the 25th is the reason, it looks like.
Yeah, but why then we cannot make consent deadline to be 24th, for example? Like I mentioned, Monday, but others I wanted to be it on the
No,
weekend.
it's true. I don't see big blocker of doing that. And at least the Monday is included, and that will push additional input, I feel. Well, not really missing, but on the communication side of this, if we like I remember Guillermo making a graphic calling out people. I'm not sure if it was shared too widely, but maybe a simple screenshot of this timeline section of the Miro board could be decent. And then to, I don't know, tackle individuals that are currently leading work groups, just for awareness.
By tackle, we mean what?
Well, the section there with which we worked on previously on the dates. So just a simple screenshot of this, in my mind, already would be decent for people to have.
Okay. Like an action item to notify with this process people. Yeah, well, I do feel like we kind of then covered that topic too. There is no additional changes that seems to be brought up by others. Then we have open topics. I brought in the Treasury Code proposal and the report itself. For the report stuff, don't have too many things to kind of go over. However, I will bring up that notification one more time that if there is something you did that is mentioned, some achievement that was not recognized as well, some resource or link to the document that I missed, if anything is relatable under any of these sections or something is missing, and then feel free to add it. Onboarding information is totally missing, so that I will draft something for here if nobody else does. So we have 2 items, 2 bare minimum items to include, but if there is something that is missing, or then feel free to add it and comment it, edit it. But for the Q3 proposal, here we have, I guess I'm just gonna go through the main changes. And so our budget slightly, I think, increased. We have a removed Treasury policy work group information for Q3 proposal. But I added here at the end of Q3, we will report on Q2 Treasury proposal goals. Because the policy work group basically started just this month, we only have like 1 deliverable. If you look at the assets and requirements, there is where is that section? The Google form for policy feedback, Google form for ratification are missing, but we do have template for consent proposal that I just showed you at the beginning of the session. So like these items will be addressed by this proposal and by this sentence basically. And if there is any other up to. Then this proposal continues to request fund to increase to maintain treasury pool space as before. And only difference is that I increased the onboarding budget from $40 to $90 per quarter, because I know it's just I've been doing onboarding more often now, and it's not. Previously, it was like maybe max 4 hours, but because of policy work group and the Treasury operation work group, like new ways of interactions have increased the need of having one-to-one conversations or discussions. This proposal continues to request fund increase to continue Treasury operations at the same pace. However, I increased the budget amount for facilitation from 100 to 120. And that's because we now have 8 facilitators and distributing $100 between 8 facilitators is smaller, even though we are introducing vacation days. So I'm not increasing the budget that much. That adds like $80 per quarter. Yes. It's actually different because it's $100 per facilitator, but the max cap is $400 per month. And now we're just increasing the max cap per so that the distribution amount is $480 per month. So yeah, some small price increases. We create a new Treasury automation work group to build tools to speed up transaction creation process. And that's now again related to the Treasury operations. And this is a totally separate proposal, but it's like the project under the Treasury pool. So it has the same structure, and you can read more about it, what it does. But the main thing is to develop a server-side solution for generating transactions. And the problems it addresses are basically currently the JSON generator is in Excel, and for me it's kind of fine. I think it took like 1 or 2 minutes to do this byte check amount. However, there are many other workgroup members who basically their entire Excel crashes. So we have waited 10 minutes for Borga last week, and it never really worked. So we stopped using, and somebody else has to take on. So that entire proposal basically makes all of this computation stuff, like this heavy computation on the server side, and so that it could be like under 1 minute for everybody who uses Excel. And also we have this will also introduce a new stage. So for now we have in Excel, we are creating the JSON, and then we take that JSON to make the transaction, and then we can use that hash to pay that out. Or now it will make so that you can submit the transaction to the Treasury, and we don't have to wait until it's paid out. So you can just submit different bundle transactions and be done with the day, even if you don't have like on-chain access or anything else. So there is like a new systematic stage between payment and yeah. So anyway, so that's like the high level. There are details how much we take down, there are how much it costs, what we're gonna do. But the main thing is just to help the operation workgroups. And this is as a proposal because of 2 reasons. First of all, we haven't had any of the development. Well, we actually did the dashboard, but usually we don't put like the development stuff on the ambassadors, because previously the Treasury rewards were very small, so we didn't want to kind of take up from that. Now is much larger, and we see already research development code and spending thousands on different kinds of automation. So we thought maybe now it's feasible to join in and provide some. Another thing why it's not from Swarm side is because we technically don't need that solution. Yes, that makes it easier, but to me, for us, we found that it's still nice to have. It doesn't mean that we stop developing other stuff and this UX and all the other things you have seen, area operators, workgroup. These are all still continuous updates that will continue to happen from Swarm side. They're not budgeted on the single estimate, but these specific things that will be then costed under this proposal. If it passes, if that makes sense. We can also take it out if there are gonna be blockers and stuff like that. So yeah, these are the main changes. Everything else is pretty much the same, just adding in these new insights and deliverables that these new changes, main changes bring up. Yeah, that's the proposal. Anything that is missing in this proposal? Something if you want to add, some questions, then feel free to share. I take a silence as we're done talking Treasury. Just before we go, I have this meeting summary thing. What are the keywords you would relate to this session? Type them in Zoom chat or in Miro board, and with this I will then end the main part of session. Yeah, well, while you're guys typing these out, I will then do a meeting summary. I will stop recording.